hello there, YouTube. On a partly cloudy morning. It's a little brisk out here. It's showing 65, but that's where it was. That's what the temperature was when I was in the shop. So it could be lower than that. It feels like it's a little lower than that. You know, I just found a weird thing. This coat snags my helmet strap for some reason, or maybe it's just how I sit on this compared to the iron. I'm more stretched out on the iron. I'm all kind of closed in on this, but I can't seem to get myself situated this morning, and it's cool enough that my helmet's fogging up, but yet I don't want to give you a bunch of wind noise with it open. We'll just give this a shot and see how it works. It's actually really comfortable. It's kind of humid out this morning, even though the temperature is cool. Yeah, it's going to be cooler than the 65 because it's already dropped to 64, and we've been going downhill that whole time. God damn, this thing's got good brakes. But anyway, I want to rack up some miles on this thing to, I'm at 632. For some reason I thought I was at 732 or something. I don't know where I got that from. I don't know maybe I just looked at it funny or something. Anyway, not that I'm in a rush to put miles on this thing. I would like to get to the 1,000-mile mark and get all that damn break-in oil out of there, you know. Even if the oil isn't anything special for break-in. Some manufacturers do, some don't. I do know that when you dump the tranny oil out of these things for the first time, it can't be what they recommend to run in it from the factory, because that stuff just comes out like water. It comes out like scalding hot motor oil. It just pours out like water. And then when you put in what's recommended, when you change that the next time, you got to make sure that sucker is good and hot, or you're not going to get it all out. There's no question you get all the break-in oil out of them. Ah, that's even quieter. Imagine that. It caused my shield to catch the air pocket that the vent creates. But still a little noisy. I apologize for that. But I just released I didn't do anything to the video. I just I put in a couple of subtitles where I kind of don't explain and, you know, point right and say left. Anyway, that was kind of a rush. I was at the last minute last night. Kelly's talking about fixing dinner, and I thought, well, I was thinking about taking a quick ride on the iron, you know. She goes, and I told her I'd be gone about a half an hour. So I kind of felt a little rushed. It wasn't one of my normal relaxed vlogs. So I'm like yammering on about a mile a minute. And I'm kind of all over the map on that one. But anyway, got home, ate, relaxed there a little bit, and just got really tired. So I thought, you know what? It's 44 minutes long. I'm just gonna stick the thing up there and just let it fly. Nobody watches it. You know, I'm not out anything if they don't. You know, I hope they do. I kind of flipped through where I'm sure there's other mistakes in there, but where I was when I was riding along, I realized I said things kind of stupid, so I looked for those. I'm sure there's more of them that I don't remember. I'll probably come home tonight. Always release them in the morning, then come home at night and watch them. You should probably watch them before you release them. That's my normal MO, is I get it uploaded and then watch it on through Chromecast or the built-in Wi-Fi, or yeah, the built-in YouTube app on the television set. And then I decide if I've done something so stupid, I'll just delete it, fix it, and re-upload it. These days of fast computers, fast software, and fast shocks are cool or something. They feel stiff this morning. Oh, I was going to say there's two things that my only complaints with this thing is the overly sensitive rear shocks. The specials come with these hydraulically adjusted spring preload, and man, it's almost like it's adjusting damping at the same time. Spring preload is just spring preload, but I swear when I add spring pressure, it's also adding damping. I haven't researched this enough to see if that's happening, but not only do I get additional spring pressure, but I seem to get additional compression. So, are you guys familiar with these the manually adjustable shocks on the special street glides? Enlighten me. I'll do some research on it and figure it out myself. But anyway, that's my complaint, is trying to find the happy spot. And the thing is so infinitely adjustable, and it seems to be pretty touchy to minor input. So I'll get it all figured out. I'll figure out how many clicks is mine. I know, go based on your weight, and read the manual, right? Don't be a moron. Usually, like the Japanese and stuff, they'll give you a weight and then what to adjust it to. Harley does it a little backwards. They tell you what to adjust it to for this weight. So it's a little trippy. So initially, well, they had it turned all the way out. I mean, it was 0. So I'm riding home, and I'd hit a big bump, and I'd feel the thing bottom out. And I'm going, man, that shock is like, this ain't good. You know, this feels like the stock shocks on my iron. You know, I bottomed out 3 or 4 times just coming home. But I did spend about 3 hours on it. Countless amount of miles. I don't know how long I went. I literally spent, I put the sun down last Wednesday when I went and picked this thing up. I have never bought a motorcycle that I just left there and just rode it literally for hours. Like I said in the iron video there, I've never been so enamored with a new bike purchase. I mean, I just absolutely love this thing. And you know, as sad as it is, I almost have to force myself to think about that old Road King. You know, when winter sets in and it's slow and this thing's sitting in the shop, oh, I'm going to be crying about that Road King. You know, I really do miss it. I miss when I go out there. I've got the Spider sitting where the Road King was, and it kind of breaks my heart when I don't see my pretty red and white bike sitting there. You know, but that thing, you know, it was kind of, I almost hated to ride it just to ride it, because I didn't want to rack up a bunch of miles on it, you know. It's like old and classic, you know. And I know if I think about it too much, I'm going to regret not just keeping it and just, you know, making double payments for the next, you know, I don't know what that would be, 18, 20 months or something like that. It wouldn't have been the end of the world. But, you know, that had Kelly concerned. So, and she's never really questioned or bugged me about the bikes, but having 2 of these things kind of, I don't know, had her concerned. You know, they didn't come right out and say you can't do that, but you know, she just had this look and was kind of being quiet about it. You know, I'm thinking, you know, I know she just doesn't want to say anything. She knows I love these things. She don't want to hurt my feelings, but I know there's some concern there. So all in all, I did the right thing. Years down the road, you know you're going to regret it. You know, I'll probably be here in a month or so when when all the new and the fascination of this thing wears off, I'm really going to regret getting rid of that Road King. But I have to be honest, when I'm riding this thing, I'm not thinking about that Road King at all. I just kind of drive along, and I mean, granted, it's just a street glide. You know, these things are a dime a dozen. The Harley shops don't have very many of these things on hand, not here in the Northwest. These things are enormously popular. And to be able to find the flat black special is, man, that was like finding a diamond in the rough. And it was their last one. And I guess they're not getting any more. Their allocation for the year is done. And they've been dealer trading them to, help customers out. And, but I guess even that's slim. If you want a road glide, there's plenty of road glides. And if you're anywhere around the Pacific Northwest and you got a hankering for a road glide, the popularity of those things it's like somebody flipped the light switch. Apparently, you can't hardly give them things away now. Road glides, if you study the history of road glides, they're kind of an on-again, off-again bike. You know, it's one of those bikes you either like it or you very strongly dislike it. And I'm not one to dislike motorcycles, but there is something about that road glide that just almost offends me. Not to that extreme, but I'm just trying. I really don't have a word for it. That fairing and then that floating old gauge cluster that looks like it's off an old BMW R65 or something, you know, or the old Gold Wings when they first started putting fairings on them. You know, there was nothing built into the dash. I don't know, it just has a cheap and awkward look to it, and those slanted headlights up front, it just, I don't know, I can't put a finger on it. But it's the same bike as a street glide. It's just got a fixed fairing on it. And if you look how the fairing's mounted, I mean, you literally can put this fairing on a road glide or the road glide fairing on this. It'd be some work because obviously the sub-harness and stuff going in there would be different, but its mounting points are in the same place, or not in the same place, but it's just utilizing the crash bars and like a Jap bike, it's just got, you know, it's like got a subframe that just holds that in place. And the Japanese have been doing that forever, you know. But, and BMW, you know, they've had their touring bikes. I mean, fixed fairings is nothing new. I mean, most of you guys probably weren't even alive when they started doing those things. Hell, when you really think about it, I wasn't even alive when they first started doing those things. But when they got popular, you know, I think it actually was BMW that made that popular. And they, you know, if you watch like the Paris to Dakar and stuff like that, every once in a while they'll run them old ass BMWs out there, and I'm like, where did they even dig that old clunker up from? You know, it's like them old ones that the police agencies use and stuff. They're probably not that old, but they look like that old original design from the 70s. But anyway, one of the things I wanted to mention too, and in the video I released today from the iron that I did last night, I mentioned that the Pro Super Tuner makes your bike illegal. That's not true. It can, but that's not true. By default, it'll be just like the street tuner. It keeps everything, all the air fuel ratios are, you know, mostly at 14.6, which is you know, keeps everything all legal beagle and happy. But the difference between it and the street tuner is you have the ability to adjust all that stuff, essentially make a race, you know, flash a race tune for it, which truly is meant for, you know, closed course stuff. None of those bikes meet any criteria for you know, EPA or CARB. So if you had somebody stick a sniffer up your exhaust pipe on your bike after one of those tunes, you're like on a Harley Twin I don't know if it's still 10 grand. I think somebody said it's like 15 grand now, but I'm not sure. But it's for the longest time it was 10 grand per incident, and what incident they're referring to is each cylinder is considered its own life. So on a V-twin, you got 2 cylinders, so it's per incident per cylinder. So that'd be a 20 grand fine, and this is with the feds. You will pay that fine. You don't get out of it. You will pay the fine. And if you ever wonder why dealerships don't, you know, they don't flash these things out of legal, is because it's 100 grand per incident to a dealer. So on a Harley, a dealership could get charged 200 grand for knocking your bike out of EPA. You know, with all the Japanese, you know, like on carbureted models, there's a cap that prevents you from adjusting the fuel screw, and the slide needles are fixed. They're not adjustable like on a dirt bike, because it's illegal for you to. Them things are set to be emission legal, and you're not to touch them. So there are cases when a bike is mistakenly set to lean, and you use an EGA, an exhaust gas analyzer, and you set it to legal limits, which is lean, but the bike will run fine. And then you're supposed to put those limiter caps back on it. And usually the only thing you can adjust, you know, on one of those is the fuel screw, which is the idle circuit. Which on most street bikes, that thing's effective. You know, usually around the, you know, a fourth of throttle or less. It's controlling the idle circuit for the most part. And on dirt bikes, it can control, like, you know, the key and CR carbs and stuff like that. Those flat slides, they can have an effect up to half throttle on one of those. It's pretty crazy. But anyway, that's for a dirt bike, which is not a road legal motorcycle anyway. The needles are adjustable on that. But you can, you know, you can buy for carbureted models, you can buy the Dyno Jet kits. There's JD Racing makes a fantastic jet kit. But messing with any of that, you put a jet kit from, like, you know, even Dyno Jet, there's warnings on there that your bike is for closed course competition only. Your bike is no longer street legal when you put one of those jet kits in. You get caught, like you have you know, an older, you know, inline 4, you personally could get like a $40,000 fine for doing that. It's highly illegal. You know, be careful with that stuff. But I just want to clarify that because I was listening to that part, I was looking for something where I thought I made a mistake in there somewhere, and I didn't subtitle to correct that. But I thought about that this morning. I go, you know what? I think I clearly say in there that the Pro Super Tuner makes your bike illegal, and the Screaming Eagle Street Tuner, which they changed the name of that thing. I'm almost positive it used to just be called the Super Tuner, or Super Tuner Street, or something like that. Now it's just simply called the Screaming Eagle Street Tuner. The box looks the same and everything else, and I'm sure everything's the same. It's just something in the internal software is blocked so that the AF can't be adjusted on it. And there's other things that, you know, essentially you can flash a stage 1 reflash to it. It's not a whole. You know, where it comes in handy is, like, say you have Iron 883, and you can flash a stage 1 flash to it. The same flash that the dealer is going to flash to it. and it makes it run with the exhaust, but yet it keeps the emissions all in legal parameters. But if you have that street tuner, and you personally, say you buy one of the 1200 kits from Harley, or one of the 1250 kits from whoever the hell that is, and well, needless to say, your fuel injection is not gonna, your system's not gonna supply the fuel to that 1200, because it still thinks it's an 883. So anyway, you can go into that street tuner and tell it that you have the 1200cc kit in there. You go in there, you tell it you got the stage 1 air filter, stage 1 exhaust, 1200 kit. Say you put oversized injectors in there, you can tell it that that's there, and you know, you got, for future modifications you can alter stuff. But if you're swapping back and forth different exhausts, and you think different exhaust is making the bike run different, you want to reflash it, the street tuner pretty much isn't going to adjust for that. You know, you need to run it on a dyno, or you know, you can I mean, it's nowhere near what a dyno is, and that my old 72 was living proof of that. The only way to do this is on a dyno, and do it right. But you can do those recorded runs and fine tune it, and it's more than acceptable. It runs way better than stock. Hell, you do a stage 1 with this bike completely stock, which I don't know about doing that, because it has catalytic converters in the mufflers. So, you know, you don't want to overfuel a cat in an exhaust system. You will catch shit on fire. KTM had had a little training video where if you buy the Akrapovic exhaust for like a 990, and well, at the time it was a 990 Adventure or 990 Duke, if you were to take that Akrapovic off, you're supposed to flash it back to stock. And they have a little training video that shows what happens if you attempt to run the stock exhaust with cats in them, with the reflash for the Akrapovic exhaust, which have no cats, and they breathe better. So it's a richer running bike. But because, you know, it's running richer, but the exhaust is flowing at a rate that it leans the fuel injection out. So by saying it's running richer to compensate for the free flow, but it's still legal parameters. If that makes any sense to you. But anyway, you run you know, whatever, KTM just called it a recalibration, you know, for the exhaust. It would be like doing a stage 1 on this. So where like my iron, I put a stage 1 flash on it before I put exhaust or air intake. But I knew it was going to run too rich, which it did, because my first recorded run, it just wholesale leaned out all kinds of stuff on it. But see, I'm using the Pro Super Tuner, and it allows me to adjust those air-fuel ratios throughout the entire mapping of the fuel injection. So I knew it was going to be too rich. So, you know, I did some recorded runs and let it auto adjust, and I've got a secondary program that I pushed it into that in addition, which sweetens the pot a little more. It just like fine-tunes the fine-tune, so to speak. I don't even remember what it's called. I think it's called My Tune or something like that. It makes very minor adjustments, but man, the bike just, it doesn't hiccup or flaw anywhere after doing it. But anyway, I reflashed stock bike, adjusted because it was stock, but I got the you know, the higher RPMs and a little fatter running, and man, it broadened the power band of that iron. Those Sportsters have like a 2 to 2500 RPM power band when they're stock, and now that iron, it, you know, it has power from, you know, clutch out to the rev limiter. It's amazing. Before you you couldn't lug it that much. It would go flat when you lugged it. And not that I condone lugging it, but you know, you find yourself in that situation where you're rolling through a turn, and you know, it's not a good idea to shift mid-turn. You can just roll on and it pulls now. And you know, it was, I don't know what the RPM, I don't have a tach, so I couldn't tell you what RPM it was, you know, it was performing best when it was stock, but I don't even think about it now. It just, it pulls wherever. You know, it has peak power. I would say that's probably somewhere around the 4,000 to 5,000 RPM range, where it's really in its happy spot. You know, and you know, just because the RPMs, the red line went from 5,500 to 7,500, that doesn't mean that, you know, peak powers at 6 or 65 or even 7. Peak power is where peak power is. That's you know, that gets switched a little bit with exhaust, but you know, the head porting and cams and stuff like that have a huge influence on that. You know, just adding exhaust to it doesn't, especially on a twin, doesn't wholesale change where the peak power is. I mean, it does change it, don't get me wrong, but it's not like when you know, you got a stock inline 4, like say a 600 sport bike. You know, these kids, first thing they do is put this super high flow, very loud exhaust on them, and then they drive around town and they go, well, geez, I have no bottom end. The bike lost power. Well, the reality is, you know, you didn't lose power. If you you know, mapped it correctly, you still have you've gained some performance, but it's all on the top end. And let's face it, you know, unless you're on a racetrack, even on a 600, you're not living at the peak power point, at whatever that is, you know, 9,000-10,000 RPMs on one of those things. But putting a big open exhaust, you lose the bottom end torque. You lose the overall drivability of the bike. You made a race bike out of it. And you know, some kids, they live, you know, in the high RPMs, and that's perfectly fine for them. But that's making a lot of racket carrying on. But for, you know, general bike use, you're pretty much in the mid-range overall. That's why twins are so fun, and you can ride them so fast, like on back roads and stuff, because of the, you know, the mid-range torque they have. And that's where you're at, tight twisties. If you're on a wide open sweeping track, or you ride out in the desert all the time, then that top end, you know, that's where you want it. All ass. But anyway, rattling on like a BB in a boxcar once again. So I've been asked about this fairing, or the screen on this thing. I guess essentially the fairing. Asking, do I get head buffeting? And I do get some head buffeting. And one gentleman, I'm sorry I can't recall your name. I read the comment in an email and filed you for getting to it at a later date. He said he test rode one of these and said there was no difference between the. You can hear the difference. There is a marked difference between vent open, vent closed. You got to remember what the vent is doing. The only thing it's doing, it's not blowing air at you. Now, if I open it, or open it and stick my hand there, there's a lot of air, a ton of air coming through that vent. But that's not what it's doing. People misunderstand that thing. They think that vent's blowing air at you. There's no air here. You feel it when you're right up on it. All it's doing is taking the negative pressure. It's let me put it in a water effect to you. Say you got a little diving board and it's 2 feet off the water. You step off the end of that, diving board, you just fall right into the wind. There's no resistance or nothing. because you know, you're skidding and you're falling through it. Well, you know, stick a piece of plywood down there. You know, when you land on that thing, you're hitting a wall, and the water has to roll around that board, you know, and basically displace the water to for you to fall through. Well, with this negative pressure behind this windshield, this is like landing on the board. So the fairing's being pushed through a wall of air. Well, the air has to roll around this thing, or it will roll. It's just, you know, physics or whatever you want to call it. It has to roll around to displace the air that this thing's pushing through. Well, essentially, opening that vent is taking the negative pressure that's behind it. It's like the negative pressure on the top of a wing of an aircraft. That's how an aircraft flies. Well, if you put a hole in the wing and took that negative pressure off the top of the wing, the thing would just fall out of the sky. Well, by knocking the negative pressure that's being created behind this thing, now the air flies off of the screen. It's being displaced. It's not having to fight through it as much. So what it essentially does is create an air pocket back here. I close that thing, and now it's fighting the wind. I mean, you clearly hear it over my helmet. Just now, that's really good when it's hot because it puts more air on me. But it is more of a fight because now the air is dirty. It's tumbling around. It's like pulling up a. Here's another example. That boxcar on that semi truck. You roll up behind that thing, and there's so much negative pressure, you can draft that thing. The air tumbling around it is swirling around to a point it'll almost suck you into the back of it. Now, have you ever seen the trucks going down the road and the trailer's full of those great big irrigation pipes? Try to draft that. You get nothing. The air is going right through it. Oh, that looks like a pokey right there. Nah, it's just a... Oh, he's even been tagged. He must have ran out of gas and didn't come back to it soon enough. But anyway, that just creates a negative pressure, or it relieves the negative pressure. So yeah, it makes a huge difference. Now, do I still get helmet buffeting? And for whatever reason, oddly enough, I have a little bit of a headwind. This little stretch of road is crazy as hell. Most of the time I'm being pushed along when I'm heading south, and then it fights me all the way home going north. But yeah, I get some buffeting out of it. Is it annoying? No. And for a reference, my height is 5'8", so I'm not high enough that I'm in the wind, but it's enough that you know, especially in headwind, and for whatever reason why I'm getting a little bit of that this morning instead of a tailwind. But you know, this is nature I'm riding in here, but it's noticeable. It's there. But annoying? Nope. They make a shield that looks exactly like this. This is a 4-inch shield, but they make one that looks just like it, but it's 7-inch, so you can still see right over it. And I guess that it's much smoother to ride behind than this one. When I put those vents down there, I was curious if I rolled those things in, how much that would change stuff. Cruise going here for a second and roll these things in. Holy crap! You know what that does? That even takes more negative pressure off. Wow, man, that's blowing in the vents. That I left the vents open from last night. That thing is sucking some, or blasting some air. It's pushing air up. Hey, that's really nice. That's what I was hoping to do with these things. When on these hot days, I can roll them in like an old wing window. Man, it is so. I'm so used to the cruise control being on the right hand side. I keep reaching down to set it from the right. Wow, that's nice. You would believe the air that's pushing air right in these side vents. But I don't know if you noticed the difference in air sound on my helmet. That just created even a bigger wall up here. That must be pushing up and reducing some negative pressure even further. Wow, it doesn't make the vent make as much of a difference. I mean, it is really noticeable when you turn that thing off before. Yeah, it's a little bit, but nowhere near. I mean, it's very pronounced when you open that thing up. Also, whoop, your helmet goes quiet. But what it does, you know, there's no air hitting me in the face. But I think because of the shortness of the shield, the air is coming up and it's actually coming down on top of my helmet. That's where the buffeting is coming from. It's coming from above, like right in this. I feel it right over here in this corner. People just really got to wonder what I'm doing, driving down the road waving my hands around. Anyway, I've made this thing too long already, so there's my morning freeway vlog. Wow, I had to, that's actually got to be quite long. And I did the worst thing ever, putting that thing there. It puts it at an angle that it just picks up reflections. And I already have a hard time seeing that thing now, just all but make it impossible. But I don't know what I'm going to do. I hate to put a GoPro clip on there, but part of the remote attachment kit or whatever the hell they call it, this little baggie full of all kinds of things. You know, it's even got a lanyard and all kinds of stuff. But one of the things is a GoPro clip where you put a GoPro mount and it has a little holster for this that it can clip in and out of, and you clip the remote down into it. But you can't have the Velcro strap on there when you do that. So I would have to either get another smart remote. Them things are 80 bucks a pop. I'd have to have one dedicated, like, to this bike, and that's, you know, 80 bucks is 80 bucks. I hate to just get a second one just because. I ended up with all those. I bought one remote, my first remote, and then all the rest of them that I have came with the 3 blacks and the 3 plus blacks, and I think I've had 2 each of those things. And I got another one that's in a box that's not even open. But anyway, those were the old remotes. These smart remotes that's the way to go. The battery just seems to last. I mean, I charge that thing just because every other ride. Where the other one, I had to charge it that night, or I wouldn't even, like, say I used it going back and forth to work, it'll last a day. The other remote would last about 2.5 hours. And this one's supposed to be 40% better. But I'm telling you, this, I mean, I can literally, like on those road trips, it can go all day long. So I'm thinking it's at least double. I want to say it'll last about 4 hours. See, I got that shock just in the right spot that the choppiness in the highway, it picks it up, and I can hear it in my voice. It doesn't really bother me driving, but I can hear it in my voice, so I know it's too much. So I'm gonna give her one. I'll keep playing with that thing until I figure out how many clicks is my position, you know. Because it's very sensitive. I know setting it at my weight makes it way too strong. So anyway, on that, I'm going to roll out and get myself the rest of the way to work here, and do that thing. So I appreciate you guys hanging around. I hope I didn't talk too long, but if I did, and I put this thing up and you guys are watching it, I really, really appreciate it. I always end up doing really long vlogs on this thing for some reason. I mean, they're so long, I don't want to take the time to hack it all up. And I just don't even watch them. I just do these crazy long vlogs and they just get stored away. Boy, I'm gonna have some wintertime backup, but that just doesn't feel right to pull those things out in the wintertime, you know, and you know the snow's on the ground. I'm complaining about 100-degree weather, which it's not. It's only 72 now, and that's like crazy comfortable. That's about 10 to 13 degrees colder than this same time of the morning has been in the last week or so. So I'm not complaining. Yeah, about a week, because it was the day I rode the Road King up to pick this thing up. Was the first day we went back into the next heat wave, and then the very next day it was 107 degrees when I was riding this thing home after work. That was crazy, crazy, crazy hot. And I wish I had them little funky vent things down there when I did that, but I didn't. I can't believe how much air that thing pushing up through there. Man, that really feels fantastic. And how it lands right on the vents are incredible. But I gotta say, at 72 degrees, that's pushing a little too much air through them vents. But one of the drawbacks here is the exit for the vent is in the back, and oh no, it's sneaking past the. I was thinking there, that's moving air through there pretty good. I was about to say the backpack is covering the exit vents along my flanks back there, but it's not. It's actually exiting before it gets to the backpack. Guess that would explain the massive airflow through this thing. But geez, I already said I was going to go, so I need to go. This is way too long. I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching now. Bye-bye.